to the Hollow Sky Podcast. We are your hosts, Steven.
And Kyle.
And today I put together I was going to do an episode on giants, but then that episode turned into UFOs, which also turned into aliens that are giants. So
cool.
Bear with me. That being said, before we get into that, we got to get through the business. So check us out at all our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. Come and hang out. Post cool stuff, weird articles you find, creepy shit. You know the drill. Come and be social.
The good stuff.
We got a great community going on in all these places. We love you guys. Everything is so awesome.
Facts.
If you have a paranormal encounter you would like to have featured on a future episode, Kyle's going to tell you how to do it.
You can write it out. You can record yourself on your smartphone. And then if you do it that way, you can shoot it over to the email, which is going to be hollowskypodcast@gmail.com. Or you can give us a call on our new cellular device. And that phone number is going to be 618-556-0837.
Or you can write us a snail mail. Send us something cool.
Regular mail.
Through the USPS.
Yeah, Steve can tell you that.
At P.O. Box 145, Fieldon, Illinois. That's Fieldon. Illinois 62031. We've been getting a little bit here and there, and it is dope. So thank you for that. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. First and foremost, share episodes on social media. Tell all your friends if they're into paranormal, if they like to listen to podcasts, throw our name out there. We are forever grateful for that. We have a Patreon. You can check that out. See if there's any tiers you like. Sign up for that. Support us that way. We got stickers and magnets and buttons and tiers for t-shirts and all kinds of shit. We got a bunch of shipments going out this week, so by the time this drops, everybody should have their stickers and have t-shirts all the way, and should be pretty caught up with that.
Yeah.
We're also working on a merch store because I know people are asking, they want to buy shit, and we're trying to get all of our stuff in the order to get that off the ground. We have a Venmo if you'd like to drop some change in there for a monster. That'd be dope. We appreciate you guys over at the Venmo and the Patreon doing the Lord's work.
Amen.
Keeping us on. Yeah. Oh, what else we got? Another good way you can support us is go to wherever you listen to your podcast and leave us a rating and review. It helps us be more easily found in the world of podcasts. If you leave us a 5-star rating and review, I will gladly shout you out. As I said last episode, I'm still working through February's because we have a bunch, and that is a good problem to have.
I would agree with that.
Today's comes from our friend Quincy BJJ. It says, great paranormal podcast, 5 stars. Great content presented in an often humorous way. Thank you, Kyle and Steven, for giving us all much needed content amidst the almost year-long flattening of the curve. Well, Quincy, we are glad to be that emotional support podcast you needed during this lockdown.
Absolutely.
And pandemic.
Absolutely.
I like being an escape for you guys. It's a dope feeling. Where are we at? Oh, our paranormal encounter of the day. It comes to us from our friend Dom in New Zealand. He is back with some more weirdness from the other side of the world, and I am stoked to listen to this. So here is Dom's story.
Morning, guys, or evening, where you guys are. Dom here again from New Zealand. A couple of little stories. One ghostly and one kind of alien / UFO-ish related, I guess. Going back a few years, I'd just like to preface this with my house has been an ongoing issue with apparitions and activity ever since I was a kid, really. Even to the point where my sisters had noted it, and they're 8 years in front of me. I was the mistake. Me and my boys were chilling at mine back in the day. I think Eminem's The Longest Mile or whatever it is came out. So going off that, I reckon I'd have been about 14, 13, 14, something like that. Same with the other guys. So my friends are really used to a few oddly things going on, from having sleepovers at mine and having things thrown at them. All sorts. So this night was the kind of on the same sort related, but just really odd. So we were watching the Eminem DVD. Don't know why. Looking back on it. So yeah, we started watching that probably about half an hour into it. Because we were young teenagers and my parents were out of town for the day. We decided that we'd break into my dad's liquor and try and roll a couple of his drum ciggies, because that's what teenagers do, and we were cool. We wanted to have a smoke and probably, choke out the back garden. So yeah, that's what we did. Put the DVD on pause. Me and 4 of my mates went out the back, cracked a beer, rolled these appalling ciggies. So yeah, that got finished. Came back inside, sat down, tried playing the DVD. Lo and behold, the DVD's not in the DVD player any longer. So yeah, the next half an hour to 40 minutes we spent just looking around for the DVD, to be honest. Under the couch, like in the packet again, see if someone's taken it out. But like I say, we were all outside and accounted for. So it was just odd. 30 minutes passed. I think my mate Richard found it, and it was randomly in the dining room underneath the table on top of one of the chairs. So kind of like where a kid would hide. So that's another story. So yeah, we found it and just looked at each other in all bewilderment and what the fuck was that about? Like, who moved it and why? So like I say, that's one of the many occasions. I've had a friend come round once, and this would be later, probably about 18. Went into the kitchen, asked for a drink. As I turned round, and he's just about reaching for the cupboard, the door flies open and a pint glass just gets lashed at his fucking chest and smashes on the ground. To which my mum was like, "What the fuck? You lot, get out now!" I was like, "No, it's not what you think." He was shocked because he'd never seen anything like that. He wasn't one of the original 4 from back in the day. But yeah, there's a lot of odd happenings, let's say, at my house, or my old house, where my parents still live in England now. Weirdly, I don't know why, because it was built in the 70s. But again, that's all to do with where the land and what it was sitting on. Moving forward, few years I'd be about 22, 23. I'm living in New Zealand now full time, working as an arborist. 4 or 5 of my mates, a couple of Kiwis, one dude from Ontario, and another English mate of mine. We're all doing kauri research, so we were spending our days climbing up into the big stupid kauri trees, grabbing all the seeds and coming down. So as a little treat on a night where we were camping, we'd obviously smoking a bit of bud, drinking a few beers, just having a chill out around the fire, really, just before we hit the hay, I guess, and get in the fart sack. So yeah, we were climbing this little tree, just trying to biff each other out of it and shake branches to try and piss each other off and try and make each other fall. And one of us looked up and noticed that there was like a perfect equilateral triangle of what looked like pointed stars moving, which was odd, obviously, because normally you'd attribute a satellite, just one solo light moving away like it was. Same speed as a satellite. But the difference was the inside of the triangle, if you know what I mean, was blacker than the outside of the sky for the night. I don't know what sort of height up there it was, but it was out in the outer stratosphere, let's say that. So the weird part about it, once it had stopped moving, which was weirdly above us, again, 72,000 odd feet, I'd say. It was way up there. So I don't think anything dodgy happened. But yeah, we were watching it. One light came out from the backlight of the said triangle, did a full loop all the way back round, and then shot off 90 degrees to where it had come out. At a stupid rate of speed that nothing on earth can actually keep up with. 2 minutes later, on the opposite side, another light came in and entered the light where the spot of light was on the bottom left corner, let's say. I'd like to say that the triangle itself had stopped at this point when one had shot off and one had turned up. And as soon as the other one had turned up, it started moving off again. So yeah, we were smoking a bit of bud, drinking a bit of beer, but as anyone who's done that in the past knows, you don't tend to hallucinate, man. Like, you might have a giggle, you might finish a bag of cookies and regret it in the morning, but that's about as far as it goes. Especially, no one's going to attribute smoking a bit of weed for a group hallucination such as that. So yeah, we climbed out the tree, went back to the campfire, cracked another beer and discussed that, and locked our tents up pretty good that night. So that's one more story, but yeah, I'll keep bringing them through, like I say. You guys stay cool. You're doing a really good job of adding to the disclosure. I don't really trust the government in their disclosure coming out this year, because you know what that's going to look like. It'll just be a nice big book full of blanked out pages. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, guys. You're doing it fucking amazingly. So yeah, thanks again. Stay cool.
Welcome back to the show, Dom. Thanks for taking the time to send some more experiences in. The longest mile, dog.
Hell yes.
The longest mile.
Fucking nailed that.
Love it. Let me think here. Definitely some poltergeistic activity going on, hiding your DVD and shit. For sure.
It was probably telling you not to watch this movie.
Could be. Maybe the poltergeist wasn't an Eminem fan.
Yeah, that might have. Yeah, I mean that's probably pretty good odds.
Maybe it was a bootleg copy that didn't actually have Eminem in it, and it was actually called The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler.
That's probably it.
Solved it, bro.
Fun fact.
Got you.
Fun fact. Back in the day, my wife used to have the biggest crush on Eminem ever, which was fucking hilarious.
You do look like Eminem.
No. She had his pictures all over her wall and shit. It was hilarious. Fucking hilarious. Now she's probably going to be so mad.
Yeah, she's not going to listen to the podcast anymore.
She's going to be so embarrassed. But, Dom, my guy, you submitted 2 stories where both of them you're intoxicated. So there's that.
Just mildly.
Because at first, not that I'm discrediting you by any means, but at first I was going to make a little joke about how maybe your dad's cigarettes weren't actually cigarettes. You smoke a little bit of that wacky tobacco, but in the second one, he
said, yeah, we were.
Yeah, we were definitely smoking weed. So there's that.
I love how he presents the UFO sighting. Like, we've all been there, just hanging out with your buddies and like just camaraderie going on, fucking with each other.
Yeah.
And then someone sees a damn UFO and everything changes.
Yeah, shit gets real.
The whole mood changes.
Yeah,
And they're like,
you're
you know what? Let's get out of these trees.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, we're going to not horse around anymore. We're going to go sit at the campsite and just start drinking more beer. It's almost like
Kyle just going to sleep.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. Like, it's that defense mechanism.
put it out
Just
of your
like,
mind.
yeah, let's just do whatever we can to not think about this.
I feel like just listening to him tell his stories, I feel like he's totally a guy we would just chill with
Oh, for sure.
and just share creepy stories with.
Yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
it.
And I mean, the UFO sighting is, spot on with a lot
Classic
of,
triangle
yeah.
account, which I've seen one similar. I can't remember if it had the 3 points of light. I just remember it blocking out the stars as it moved, which stuck out in my head. There was no sound. There was no anything. Just watching it move across the sky and blocking
Yeah,
out
it's
the stars.
that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it was weird.
The lights are creepy too, though.
Yeah, also weird. But yeah, thanks again for sending your stories in, Dom. I love hearing your accounts from across the world.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's definitely dope. If we ever make it to New Zealand, we'll have to hang out. I don't know if Kyle will make it there because I don't think he flies, and he's sure as fuck not going to swim.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going by the water.
It kind of narrows down our choices.
Very much so.
Copy that. Not going to New Zealand.
But if you drug me and then I don't remember any of it and I just wake up in New Zealand, that's a different story.
Well,
So it's just something to think about.
Maybe we'll create a portal.
That would work. I would do that.
That'd be sick. All right, so from there,
hear about extraterrestrial giants.
Yeah, about that. I was gonna do an episode on giants, right? Nephilim, shit like that.
Yeah.
Crazy big artifacts, weird fossils and shit. But I stumbled across this story, which kind of morphs into this whole thing with UFOs and aliens and all sorts of shit. So everybody just bear with me. So this takes place in Israel. And as we know from biblical texts and retelling, Israel was once home, supposedly, to giants.
Right.
You know, from the Bible. I looked up, there's David and Goliath is one. I looked up some other ones. In Samuel and Chronicles, they talk about unusually tall warriors among the Philistines. They talk about 4 warriors that fought alongside Goliath. Their names are, I'm sorry if I mispronounced them, but Saf, Lami, and Ishbi-Binabab. Ishbinabab?
Nailed it.
Binab? I don't know. Whatever. Not a Bible guy. Just going off what I found here. Their descriptions are similar, they said, to Goliath, noting great stature and the massive nature of their weaponry. Unlike Goliath or any of the warriors, this unnamed 5th warrior was said to have 6 fingers on each of his hands and 6 toes on each of his foot.
We've heard that in regards to giants.
Before.
Yeah.
That's why I put that in there. I'm like, this kind of goes hand in hand, pun intended, with other giant accounts. But having 6 fingers on each foot and each toe is known as polydactylism. This particular article that I was reading goes into actual clans of giants brought up in the Old Testament. There are the Anakim, who are descendants from the Nephilim, mentioned in Genesis. They were encountered by Moses. At one time before the children of Israel traveled through Transjordan, the land to the east of the Jordan River was heavily populated with tall people known as Emim and the Zamzumim.
Really good names.
Dude, I'm terrible with this. The Amorites and another group who stood in the way of Israel claiming the promised land are described as being exceptionally tall. So as you can tell here, there are multiple encounters with giants through biblical history and lore within the realm of Israel. And I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because it kind of adds credence, so to speak, and it kind of makes you question as to what's the nature of these beings everyone's encountering, right?
Right.
So that part in history wasn't the only time that giants were encountered in Israel, which is where we come into this. In the 1990s, there was a rash of UFO sightings that involved exceptionally large humanoid entities. To get there, we have to start at the UFO flap in Israel. It's kind of the very first time that it was brought to media limelight was in September 28th, 1987, which is Everett's birthday, not 1987, but September 28th. Anyway, a 27-year-old auto mechanic named Ami Akrai was driving just south of Haifa when he saw what he thought might be a helicopter in distress hovering over the sands of Sikmona Beach on the Mediterranean Sea. He stopped his car. To his utter amazement, he saw a disc-shaped craft which emitted a bright red flash right before disappearing. 2 days later, he returned to the site with a ufologist that the police had referred to him. This ufologist's last name is Arbel. What they discovered remains one of the most lasting proofs ever left by a UFO of its physical existence. The flash emitted by the craft had burned its image into the sands of Sikmona Beach. A 15-meter elliptical disc was burnt black into the sand. What was more interesting was that inside this sand was an area that wasn't burned. In the vegetation in the sand which wasn't burned was a clear image of a pilot of the craft facing a control board.
What the fuck?
Bro.
How is that even possible?
He wasn't hot enough to burn the sand.
That's so weird.
So it wasn't a one-off. Ackray's incident was followed by more incidents later on, almost a year later in 1998, when a similar shaped craft was once again burned into the sand of Sikmona Beach, about 100 yards north of the first site. This was followed close to a year later by a sighting of two teenagers on April 27th, 1989, when they witnessed a UFO actually explode into thousands of shards over Sikmona Beach. This last one, considering they had seen a craft blow up, they had searchers out there checking shit out, making sure it wasn't a plane or a helicopter or any of that. Israeli ufologists kind of caught wind of the story. They decided to go in and investigate more scientifically. They found that on the beach, they was just strewn with burnt white metal, it says burning white metal, which was cool to the touch when they picked it up. The metal even glowed in the water. When picked up, the shards turned into white ash. Scientists from the Technion Institute of Technology tested the site and found that the magnetism of the area was 6,000 times higher than the surrounding area.
Which is weird because just talking about Dulce, they used all the magnetic shit in the base.
Yeah.
It's kind of fucked up.
For hyper travel.
And then in, not that it's necessarily connected, but the beginning of Dulce, there was a UFO report that was hovering over the truck, and it emitted an ash-like substance onto the trucks.
Isn't that crazy?
That's fucking weird.
It's crazy. Some of the shards that remained were sent off, and they were found to be almost pure magnesium from the ship that blew up. A few years later, it is reported that samples of the burnt sand were sent into the television show Sightings, which is from the late 90s. I used to watch the hell out of it when I was a little kid. But they put the sand from the crash site through laboratory tests. The sand seemed to almost melt in the heat of the camera light.
That's weird.
The reason was later discovered the sand particles were covered with a low-melting hydrocarbon material. The laboratory could find no natural or human explanation for the phenomenon.
That's bizarre.
It is weird. Like whatever blew up over that beach has just completely fucked with the...
Yeah, like it broke down. Like it broke itself down to like a basic form and then covered the sand. I don't know. It's weird.
It's strange. Another reason I kind of touched on the biblical aspect is because another tie-in to the Bible is 200 yards above Sikmona Beach is a biblical shrine called Elijah's Cave. Here, Elijah preached, and somewhere nearby in the Carmel Mountains, he challenged the Canaanites to a duel of the gods. Two bulls were tethered together, and the gods were ordered to roast them. Naturally, the Canaanites' God failed, could not do it. But Elijah's God sent a ray of light from heaven, which cooked his bull on the spot.
That is a weird contest.
Which is weird when people are seeing shit burnt into the sand in the 1990s.
That's true.
And way back in whenever the Bible times was written, they're also getting rays of light sent down on the same spot.
Yeah, that's weird.
They assumed that the ray was probably similar to the beam which burned in the sands of Sikmona Beach into that saucer shape. Within the cave of Elijah, there is an ancient drawing of something that is said by people who witnessed the craft to be a spitting image of the craft that had burned the sands below. It so intrigued the team of Sightings, they actually went in and checked this all out. I tried to find the episode on it, but I could not find it. Finding episodes of Sightings online, like on YouTube and shit, is fucking difficult. I looked for it to share, but I couldn't find it. The people of the Sightings team decided that the image was probably just a coincidence. But one of the filmmen, or the cameraman who filmed it, he was certain that it was probably a match to whatever was burned in the sand centuries later. So going back to the original burn in the sand, that was, that evidence is crazy because it actually shows not only like the dimensions of a particular craft, but also a pilot.
Yeah, and that
so to
part
speak.
to me is bizarre.
And then it left construction material as well.
Right.
From blowing up over the beach. So from there, everything kind of chilled up until 1991 when a village of Mosh, some 5 miles away from Kadima, 2 straight nights, a journalist had his house lit up from the outside.
Nope.
Yeah, he was woken up by a huge light shining down on his house. He went outside, saw this craft hovering around. So on the 3rd night, he decided to grab a video camera, and the journalist Eli Cohen actually recorded the UFO on videotape. He had several minutes of footage filmed after daybreak, which was some of the most convincing UFO recorded footage at the time. I will post some YouTube clips on the socials if I find them. I found one, but I'm not sure if it's from this exact encounter or if it's one coming up. So from there, it's almost just like they were just kind of planning, checking shit out around Kadima for this huge flap that kind of takes off. In 1993, they came back full force. This time, the occupants of the crafts did more than merely hover over the sky. In the morning of April 20th, Cypriot Carmel's house glowed from within. She stepped outside and saw what she thought was a new fruit silo that was built in her backyard. As she was watching it, the silo added a second story to itself.
Awesome. That's ridiculous.
That? You go outside and you're like, man, I don't remember that being there, and then it just doubles in height.
Awesome.
As she saw the silo add a second story to itself, 10 yards to the side of this magical silo, she saw a 7-foot tall being wearing metallic overalls. Its head was covered in what looked like a beekeeper's helmet. She said, "Why don't you take your hat off so I can see your face?" The being supposedly answered her telepathically, "This is the way it is." He has a beekeeper face.
I would just be like, sick overalls, dog.
Which is not something that's far off from a lot of other.
No, I've heard this description before.
Metallic suits are
with like the beekeeper, which could be spoken as like a astronaut-ish type helmet.
Makes me think of the Mad Gasser.
Yeah, I thought about that too, but I can't remember what episode it was. It might have been Skinwalker Ranch where they reported a being similar to this. I don't know if I can't remember if the height.
There's a lot of metallic suits.
Yeah. Yep.
This was Israel's first like really media publicized close encounter with an alien being. Especially in that culture, she could have been easily ridiculed for coming out with this. But the thing that kind of led credence to it was that there was a almost 20-meter diameter crop circle that was burnt in her yard, exactly where she said she'd seen the craft.
Well,
within the circle, there were shards of material later found to be almost pure silicone. Like, if it's a prankster, where are they going to get pure silicone to throw in the middle of this? At first, they thought that they were pranksters just burning holes in their yards, making people think that they're crazy. Within 10 days, 2 more circles were found just outside of her house in her backyard. This time, they were soaked with a red liquid, and this fluid would be consistent with a feature of upcoming landings and crop circles in the surrounding area. It was tested by the National Biological Laboratory in Nesciziona and found to be composed mostly of pure cadmium.
Well, they sure do like their pure shit.
Dude. And cadmium's nothing to fuck with. I thought that I had put...
Well, I'm telling you right now that if I was that chick, I'd be like, all right, something's got to change in this motherfucker because you're
burning my damn yard.
Well, there's that, and then one alien spacecraft in my yard. It's like, okay, this sucks, but whatever, it's gone. But the fact that they keep coming back,
the fact that she didn't even notice them being there the next 2 times is creepy.
Well, there's that too.
You just wake up you're like,
Poor
okay,
thing.
I see this UFO in my backyard. It left this crop circle. All right, well, it's gone. Cool. I wake up the next day. Well, there's another crop circle, but I don't remember the UFO being here. And then the next day, oh, there's another one. Cool.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have talked to the sweet MC Hammer overall dude.
Yeah. Take off your hat and let me see your face. This is what it looks like.
This is how it is, woman.
From there, more crop circles were found popping up in the area. And they appeared to be also soaked with this reddish liquid. And as they were investigated, the liquid made investigators feel nauseous. Thankfully, the liquid was collected and analyzed, again, at the National Laboratory, where it was mostly cadmium. Cadmium is said to be a soft metal, and its compounds were once used to produce red, yellow, and orange pigments, as well as to color glass and stabilize plastics. However, cadmium is toxic, so most products containing it have been recalled. High levels of cadmium exposure can cause various unpleasant symptoms, including some that can be fatal. So if someone would have to get this pure cadmium liquid if they were faking this whole encounter.
Well, and why would you use something like that in a fucking UFO sighting hoax?
Yeah, this
It doesn't even make sense.
You're right.
I know how I'm gonna.
It's a little extra.
I know how I'm gonna convince them. I'm gonna pour this pure cadmium all over the place.
That'll show them.
Yeah.
They'll never question me.
And then over here, I'm gonna put pure silicone as a curveball. We're gonna really trip them up.
From here, the unearthly visitors focused on two other women in their late 30s living on Happlemock Street, which this kind of stood out to me too, that a lot of the people who had encountered with this UFO flap were women, middle-aged women.
Dude, that sucks because that makes me think not good thoughts.
Like
old space dudes is coming to Earth.
Yeah, which
get a little bit of loving.
Kind of falls in line with
the Nephilim
and gods.
That's fucked up. I just caught that too.
Yeah, weird, right?
That is weird. That is weird.
The first of which was a Russian immigrant named Mara. She said that something had shaken her house so hard it caused the air conditioner unit that was on top of her house to fall completely through her house. She also had disembodied voices calling to her in her childhood nickname.
Nope.
Eventually, it messed her up so much, she just was convinced the house was haunted and moved the fuck away.
I don't blame her.
She's not even effing with it.
I don't blame her. I mean,
I love that she's like, it's ghosts, it's not aliens. I'm getting the hell out of here.
Aliens that don't somehow know my childhood nickname.
That would be fucked up.
That would suck. And then the fact that you're sitting in your living room watching TV and then your AC just falls through your house.
Think how hard you'd have to shake. And then your house is shaking. Just like a fucking earthquake. Later, a town treasurer of Cadmia. It's weird that the town is Cadmia and cadmium is found in the...
That is kind of weird.
I'm sure it has nothing to do with one another, but it is weird. Cadmia, by the name of Sash Vahud, would become the next to experience the run-in with these unearthly giants. She was awoken during the night of March 31st to find that her house was again shaking and a 7-foot-tall, giant, silvery suit being was standing by her bed. Telepathically, he said, "Do not be afraid, I will not harm you." He announced as it glided around the room.
Nope.
She described the thing's movement as being like it was, quote, floating on its shoes. As you would, she wondered if she had dreamt it all, because that's pretty fucked. She said it also moved through the walls as it was moving. Like to exit the house, it didn't use the door or window, just moved through the wall. So she's like, had to have been a fucked up dream. You know?
Yeah.
Ate some crazy food the night before, went to bed late, had this dream about this house-shaking UFO with this silver-suited man, until she went outside and there were 2 crop circles, 11 and 20 feet in diameter, in the field right outside her house by her window.
Nope.
What did the investigators find in these crop circles?
Something pure.
Cadmium and silicone.
Weird.
In both formations.
Yeah, so going back here real quick, how fucking terrified would you be to wake up in your goddamn bed and there's some giant ass dude in a silver suit staring at you while you sleep?
He says, "You're gonna be fine."
Exactly. And the first words that come out of his mouth is like,
"Don't be scared.
I'm not gonna hurt you, okay?" And so it's gonna be okay.
That's the first thing people that are gonna hurt me say.
Yes. And then he's like, "I'm gonna reverse Michael Jackson moonwalk around the house.
It
Just
might
buzzes
be
around.
Michael Jackson.
It probably is.
He moonwalks. He has the silvery suit.
There you go.
Kyle solved it.
Solved it.
Kyle solved it.
Nailed it.
Another one knocked out of the park by the
We're
Hollow
so
Sky
good at this
podcast.
job.
We are. We are.
We definitely don't get paid enough.
But this wasn't the end. Next, in June of the same year, it was Hannah Somack's turn to be visited by the UF giant. Hannah lives in Bergeda, about 3 miles from Kadima. She was startled to see that her dog was flying across the kitchen into her kitchen wall. She stepped outside to investigate what had thrown her dog, and she was stopped by what she said was an invisible force. She couldn't even make it out. From there, she saw a 7-foot, round-faced being in metallic overalls examining her pickup truck. She said to it, "What did you do to my dog?" And it answered to her telepathically, "Go away, I'm busy. I could crush you like an ant if I wanted to. Go back to your husband."
What the fuck?
That's his quote. "Go away, I'm busy. I could crush you like an ant if I wanted to. Go back to your husband." End quote.
Oh my God. That sounds like a typical white trash dude.
Like, get inside, woman.
Dude, that's terrible. Like, I thought I didn't even glanced over your notes and all I saw was "What did you do to my dog?" And I'm like, this is gonna be great. But it gets so much better with his quote. And then, not to mention, imagine seeing Frank fly across your kitchen and just go thump right into the wall.
I just look outside and there's some dude in giant silver overalls checking out my car. Boots Frank, my 70-pound golden retriever.
Leave me
goes
alone.
flying across Go back inside.
I'm busy.
This don't concern you.
It's ridiculous.
No, if she was worried about nobody believing her, she didn't have to worry long, because what was in her backyard? Another crop circle, crushed out of the grass,
4.5
was
meters.
found. Yeah, that's probably about 15 feet.
Oh, well, yeah.
In her backyard, the grass was soaked with red liquid cadmium.
That's so bizarre.
I have to figure out what the fuck if cadmium is used in...
Like a propellant or something like that?
Yeah, if it's used in space, like in our kind of space travel, I don't know, but it is weird.
Why would these... I don't know. That's weird.
Reports kept coming in throughout the summer of giants roaming the land. Persuaded one of their big television stations, who are normally pretty conservative and don't really buy into this shit, to post a broadcast of a 1-hour program on the subject. A few of the women actually appeared on the show with their encounters, as well as ufologists who examined the circles, who had tested the cadmium and the liquid found. The hosts kind of expected the audience to just write them off as being crazy and ridicule them, but much to their shock, the audience believed that the people had actually had these encounters. The result was 2 more witnesses coming out in the open, both women in their late 30s who lived within 10 miles of each other south of Tel Aviv. Clara Canova of Holon was the most reluctant to be quoted about her encounter. She didn't want to talk about it, but she acknowledged that she had seen a giant being. A resident of Rishon El Zion named Batyan Shimon, I apologize if I butcher these names, I'm not very good at it, woke up one night to find a silver humanoid with, quote, fascinating blue eyes floating around her bedroom. The giant reappeared the night after her first encounter. This time, Shimon followed it outside to a hovering mushroom-shaped craft surrounded by searchlights. 2 more giant humanoids were reported to have stepped out of a hatch on the craft and shown a blinding light at Shimon. That makes me think of Michael Jackson, too. Shimon. Bringing it back around. Once they shined the light, she spontaneously found herself back in her bed next to her still sleeping husband. The giant said to her, "Do not be afraid," as they exited her room by floating out through a window on a beam of light.
Dude, it just sounds like straight up date rape.
And multiple accounts that the husbands are asleep the whole time.
Yeah.
They're just like,
Yeah, and then they always say, "Don't be afraid, dog."
Yeah, don't be afraid.
And except for the one guy interested in the truck who has no desire for female companionship. He's
what
like,
if they posted the truck on Craigslist
They're like,
and they
check-
forgot about it?
check out this rig.
Let me see here. Where am I at? As you can see, like a lot of the encounters kind of touch on the exact same facts. Well, facts, I guess, like what they look like, their round faces, their metallic suits, but none of these women had met each other before.
Right. Yeah. And then, like you said, they all definitely fall within a realm. You know, a lot of the descriptions are virtually the same. They vary slightly from this to that, but they all have the same core to them.
Shimon found a strange powder in her bedroom on the floor the next morning. When it was tested, it was composed of cadmium as well. A few days later, toward the end of the month, she woke to find that the giants had made another return visit. One of the huge humanoids stayed right beside her bed and waved its hand over her husband's forehead while the other explored the apartment. The giants shone like neon and wore skin-tight white outfits. The second giant returned to the room and pointed to his companion. And on that note, the entities glided into the adjacent room, which Shimon's son was sleeping. Instead of doing anything unspeakable to her son, the giants just focused on the fish tank, the aquarium in the bedroom. They seemed to be absolutely mesmerized by the fish tank.
These motherfuckers are weirdos.
It's like they are legitimately exploring the planet, but they do not give a shit about humans.
Well, I mean, realistically,
like,
they don't
bro,
have to.
They're like, check out that Ford Ranger. This is fucking sick. And they're like, you think that's dope? Look what this dude's got in his bedroom.
He's got fish.
Fucking goldfish. Sick.
It's so bizarre. Like, you're right. They're fascinated by the most mundane shit.
Yeah. They just want the humans to leave them alone. They're like, go inside. I'm checking out this Ranger.
Yeah, it's cool.
This is sick.
I
How many
wish I had
horsepower
one.
is this thing got?
It's vintage. I'm gonna see if I can put it on my ship.
So after they stared at the aquarium for who knows how long, a beam of light shone through the kitchen window and kind of overshadowed the giants as they floated out of the house along it toward the same mushroom-shaped craft that she'd seen before. Another encounter came in December the same year in the village of Yatzis, 12 miles east of Rishon LeZion. Giants had opened... this says giants had opened a new axis for this weird triangle of Kadima. It's like a Kadima triangle where all these UFOs are flying. Herzl Castini, the village security chief, and his friend Danny Ezra were sitting around talking about just whatever anybody talks about when they hear a loud explosion, and felt Ezra's house shake. Herzl opened the door and stood face to face with a 9-foot-tall creature in metallic clothes whose face was hidden in a haze. He shut the door and called the police.
Dude,
I love it, bro. I love
these
it.
reactions are just classic.
You're the security guy. There's an explosion at your friend's house.
Nope.
He goes, fuck that. Slam. Calling the real cops.
Oh my god, it's hilarious.
As they showed up.
This is the shit that you can't make up. You can't. Like, dude, yeah, you're right. He just goes, nope.
As I was digging into it, I'm like, I'm just gonna run with this story because we need something lighthearted coming off of the whole catheter strangulation.
Yeah, 7 layers of hell. And
so as the police arrived and investigated, they discovered deep boot print tracks in the mud. The tracks were sunk 35 centimeters into the hard ground, hard mud, hard ground.
the hell?
Meaning whoever made them had to have weighed literally a ton.
I was gonna say that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
35 centimeters.
So their metal suit, they might just be made of metal, but they can float and moonwalk. Thinking that this might have been a terrorist altercation, the army was called in. Military trackers came in to try to follow the tracks, and they were totally stumped. The tracks carried on for over 8 kilometers. The heel dug in only 5 centimeters, meaning whatever made the track was walking on its tiptoes.
So it was definitely me
Moonwalking.
and my daughter.
It was you and your daughter.
Because we walk
Solved
on our
again.
tiptoes a lot.
If you can call it walking at all. Sometimes the distance between the tracks were 12 feet.
Well, definitely
apart.
not me and my daughter.
Yeah, which is a long jump for some thing weighing a ton.
That is not a shot in
Can you
hell
imagine-
I'm jumping 12 feet.
And then landing on your tiptoe and only make it a 5 centimeter.
No, it'd be like, it's almost like you're skipping or something. You're just being nonchalant. Like doop a doop a doop a doop doop, but you could magically take 12-foot strides.
The best that the Israeli authorities could even come up with is that the tracks were made by an unknown cult.
Well,
Yeah.
that is definitely one way to spin it.
I don't know what cult dresses up as iron giants and walks around for miles, but this
I
is
feel
what
like-
the authorities say.
I feel like that's one of them explanations where people go, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I
And
feel
then
like
they just go, "This is the dumbest shit I've ever heard," and they just go back to their mundane
they
lives.
were backed into a corner because you have everybody in this town seeing these giants,
It's a cult.
seeing these UFOs. It's leaving evidence. It's leaving tracks. It's leaving this cadmium shit everywhere. It's leaving crop circles, and they're like, "Well, we could say it's UFOs,
Or
but
what about a cult?
we heard a rumor that there was some cultists around that are 9 feet tall, 2,000 pounds,
That's ridiculous.
covered in metal.
That's the dumbest shit I've heard.
We're gonna go with that." So yeah, now we're at cult dressing as giants.
This just sounds like a B movie.
I hope it is.
It'd be a good one.
After that sighting, more were reported and continued in towns around the area. In 1996, the sighting continued. Evidence was gathered with a good dozen crafts actually videotaped in and around the area.
Well, that's crazy.
There was a UFO filmed over 3 nights with professional equipment at Kibbutz Hatzor. The results included a close-up of what appeared to be rows of square-shaped vents on the craft. In December, a household reported constant contact with small grays, the first such report from Israel. The witnesses backed up their claim with an abundance of physical evidence, including stones that melt ice immediately without a known energy source.
That's sick.
I've got a YouTube video of that I'm going to post on the socials. I'm assuming it's the same one. It showed this weird grass crop circle with this strange metallic stone in it, and they put it against ice, and it's melting it, kind of like how when you put a coin on ice, it melts it.
Yeah.
So either it's producing its own heat or it's a superconductor where it's channeling the heat from the dude's hand into the ice. But it's weird that kind of wraps up all the sightings. I know it was kind of sporadic and funny, but it's strange that of those best documented cases of Israel UFO sightings, 6 of the 7 deal with giants or giant beings, giant humanoids, whatever you'd like to say. So you have all these encounters with physical evidence, with the crop circles, with the cadmium. I don't know what the fuck the cadmium had to do with anything, but it's present at almost every single sighting. But it's weird to me that they deal, because you don't hear of a lot of UFO abductee encounters dealing with like 9 feet tall beings.
Not normally, no.
That's pretty big.
Most of them are little bitty fellers.
So like,
But the Nordics are usually
yeah, they're pretty tall.
they're tall. But I don't know. Like, it's like when you first told it to me, I'm like, well, that makes sense because of the geographic location. I mean, giants have always been prevalent over there, but the fact that it's not surprising that they would come in spaceships now that I think about it, because how many depictions are the fucking flaming chariots and all that bullshit throughout history over there.
People trying to make sense of what they're seeing, but they have no idea.
Yeah, precisely. And then you have the weird date rape link, between the old gods
Yeah.
and all that crazy
mating
shit.
with human women.
Yeah.
But, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's no evidence report of any kind of sexual encounter or anything.
No, it is a little ironic, and it may not have happened, but because they did truly seem fascinated with
women.
Well, women, but they'd seem fascinated by things on this planet.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they would just stop and stare at shit in amazement. So maybe that was part of it. I don't know.
Tank. It's weird, but it makes me wonder if the biblical accounts of giants were those giants also aliens?
It's possible.
You know what I mean?
It's possible.
Because there's reports that they say that those giants in biblical days were fallen angels. Are these things that people are encountering in our time period fallen angels?
Maybe.
Are the angels aliens? Are we gonna open that book?
Maybe the giants that fought in those wars back then and shit, maybe those were the offspring of these original homeboys, and they just rolled out.
Now they're coming back to check, and
it's possible because one would assume, like, because you had these giants showing up, they're obviously fucking smarter than us to a degree because they have spaceships that can do things that we can't, and they're relatively aware of us because the one said, you know, go away or I'll crush you like an ant.
Yeah.
Whereas,
kick the dog.
You know, I would assume, now it's not in our literature or anything like that, but I would assume that the ones that fought side by side with people back then may not have known their origins, you know, and thought that they were just extraordinary, for lack of terms, maybe, possibly. You know, because it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for them to fight side by side with certain armies unless there was something to benefit from it, you know.
Investment.
So I don't know. Throwing shit out there, seeing if anything sticks.
Yeah. I'm looking up
it's a weird story.
Cadmium usage in space applications. Cadmium plating is commonly used on connector hardware, and mechanical hardware such as fasteners. It provides excellent resistance to salt corrosion and therefore is often offered many military specification, predominantly used for naval applications.
That's weird.
It is listed on NASA's parts selection list on nasa.gov. Cadmium plating prohibition. Cadmium is typically used in the aerospace industry and other environments exposed to high salt concentrations, and is usually paired with a substrate material such as steel, copper, various types of iron, and powdered metals, which old girl found the powder in her bedroom
right
after her encounter.
But is there a lot of salt in outer space?
I have no idea.
Maybe these homeboys ain't coming from...
Maybe they're coming from the water.
The water, dog.
The goddamn ocean.
It's possible.
Because silicone was found too.
Yeah, that was only found at 2 of the ones, though, right?
Yeah. I wonder if they have anything to do with space. Fuck, I don't know. I'm just grasping at stuff here. It's a weird story. Thanks for hanging out and listening to it.
It is a weird one, but it was cool.
It was kind of lighthearted. I figured after all that heavy shit we just got out of, we could do that. So that was the weird cadmium incident in Israel. Is it giants?
It is fucking
weird. Is it aliens? Is it angels? We don't know. All we know is that they wear giant metallic overalls and moonwalk through people's houses and kick their dogs.
That's terrible.
And then I'm just repeating what this guy had to deal with.
I mean, I hear you. It's just bizarre.
It does kind of put Israel on its own dot on the UFO map, considering there's so many of these accounts include huge humanoids.
Yeah, it's weird.
Which I was thinking about it as I was reading these articles. I would almost rather deal with one huge one. Dude, little grays creep me the fuck out. I'd rather have one big metal beekeeper than a bunch of little...
I'll fight the little ones.
You're going with little ones? I don't know.
Yeah, because the big one is going to be so OP you're not even gonna have a chance.
Well, I got a fish tank in there, and I got a dog.
That's true.
And our town is full of trucks.
That's
so it's
true.
going to be a distract and attack approach.
I can get with that, but it would be like you trying to fight Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, and losing.
That's
a given.
Yeah. It's Brock Lesnar's hand to the side of the toasters.
So I'm scrolling through my notes. I love the one who's just out there chilling. He's got his beekeeper face, and she's like, "Yo, take that off your face." He's like, "Yo, this is my face." What
It
you
is
mean?
what it is.
What you mean? Take that off my face? It is my face.
Oh, dude.
Poor
that's
dude.
fucking
No wonder
crazy.
he kicked their dog. Came back. He was just trying to hang out and got made fun of, and now he's like,
I just like, and not to mention, I do. I mean, I'm not trying to be like super funny, but I do find it fucking hilarious. I mean, just imagine a 7-foot tall asshole in silver overalls
on his tiptoes.
No, I just picture him with his feet together and he's just floating around the house, like
fucking zooming.
Yeah, just, like almost like he's got them fucking wheelie
Heelys,
thing. Yeah, the
yeah.
Heelys on, and he's just zipping around the house. And then he doesn't have to open doors. He just goes through the wall, and then he stops. And he sits there.
Hey, yo, girl, where your fish tank at?
Exactly. He stops, and then she's like, "What the fuck is he doing?" And then for the next 3 hours, he's staring at a fish tank.
Like, this shit is lit.
Like, what?
It's so weird,
fuck,
and it's
man?
weird that the husbands don't wake up. Like,
Yeah.
that one encounter, like, he was just Jedi mind tricking the husband. He's like, "You just stay there and sleep. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
clean,
see,
clean
and
your
that's-
fish tank. I'm gonna
that-
borrow your truck, and I'm gonna clean your fish tank."
Yeah, that's where I draw the creepy line. Dudes are knocking hubbies out, and not so much the women.
It's bizarre.
Because they're not going to be afraid of the dude.
Oh, you're 7 feet tall, 9
Yeah.
feet tall,
And you
2,000
can
pounds.
crush
made of
people
solid
like ants.
steel. I'll crush you like an ant. So he has. It makes me wonder if he had knowledge of ants, or if it's just how she conveyed it in her brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like
a possibility.
how we process what they're saying. I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's weird.
I wasn't there. I was only like 8 years old when this happened.
Yeah,
so.
it's a cool story. I've never heard of it before.
Me either until I got into that, and I was like,
It's hilariously interesting, though.
and it's so strange that so many women had almost the exact same encounter and reports it the exact same way.
Yeah.
The same beings, the same suits,
And it seemed
the
like
same round faces, and then they were all backed up by these weird ass crop circles around their home.
And it almost seemed like most of them got multiple visits.
Yeah,
as well.
I didn't think about that too.
So that's something else to.
And these are just the women that came forward.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. It's a weird story.
It's definitely weird. It is way weird.
It is way weird.
It is bizarrely weird.
And it was hard to find. I only found 2 or 3 articles on it. So
That's crazy.
you look up UFO sightings in Israel, you Google it, and then Google cadmium with it, and then these encounters will pop up. So that's my little get together for the day. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for telling all your weird friends about us. Check us out at all our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. And until we talk next week, stay safe, stay weird, and if you get visited by a giant humanoid metal overall wearing alien, keep your dogs inside.